which are there in sustainable business. Now, when I'm saying this, we are also going to talk about what exactly ESG is, what is happening in current world today. We are also going to discuss a case study, and then we are going to look at the career opportunities, what we have in ESG as a whole. So I welcome each one of you to this session, and I will be glad if you keep on interacting with me through the chat window. So, as we normally begin, we talk about Regenesis Group. Regenesis Group is determined to bring change in today's world by developing conscious leaders and managers. And this topic of ESG is so much close to what we would like to bring as a difference. Because when we look at human development, we look at holistic human development, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, financial, and physical development all in all together. And this is possible uh, through many ways, but we have opted one of the best ways, and that is through education. And we have got so many platforms through which we would like to bring this conscious leadership in practice. The heart of Regenesis lies with integrated leadership management model, which is centered around an individual who is holistically developed. This holistically developed individual creates meaningful interrelationships with the team as well as with the institution. Through strategy, structure, systems, and culture, this developed individual delivers value to the external world, thereby making a permanent change in the external world. In Regenesis, we look at having a common graduate attributes or common platform for across all the courses. And that is nothing but your graduate attributes. Think differently, lead consciously, harness diversity, comport yourself professionally, global outlook, and ground decisions in evidence. These are the six attributes which we would like to harness in each one of us. In Digital Regenesis, we offer two types of programs. We offer introductory as well as advanced courses. In introductory, you get to know the basic know-how. In advanced, you can actually carve a career out of it. As the course where we are going to discuss about ESG, where this course comes into semi-advanced category because we are not only talking about the basics, we are also going to harness some of the skills. Data science, artificial intelligence, project management, cybersecurity, digital marketing, full stack development, data and business analytics, design thinking, product management, management advancement program. Along with this, we also offer UI, UX, and cloud computing. So these are the courses which are offered under Digital Regenesis programs as an upskilling platform. Let me quickly introduce myself to each one of you. I'm Dr. Shilpa Kulkarni, and I have 20 plus years of experience in project management, human capital management, economic and environmental strategies. I'm a GRI certified internal auditor for GRI sustainability standards and have been helping many organizations to walk the path of ESG. And hence, I feel this is a subject which is very, very close to my heart, having worked with social sustainability, collaborative research, and so on and so forth. So my projects were into sustainability endeavors, mostly from construction as well as from manufacturing sectors. Those were my clients earlier. And currently, when we are looking at this entire endeavor, surprisingly, IT sector is also coming forward for ESG standards and its mapping. So I have a question for each one of you, and I would like you to answer this in the chat box. What makes the organization good to great? I'm going to give you a minute and let me see what are your responses. So please do let me know what is your thinking. What makes the organization good to great? I'm going to give you a minute to each one of you. Please, I request all of you. I hope all of you are able to access the chat box. I hope all of you are able to access the chat box. I think yes. Thank you so much for answering. I'm looking forward for some more responses. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Efficiency, quality of products. Great. Should be effective and efficient. Great. Fantastic. Security, sustainable future, continuous improvement of standards, international social impact, intentional social impact. Oh, thank you so much. Superb, superb, superb. Few more, please. The reason why I asked this question is this is a term which was coined by Jim Collins. And when he talked about organizations which are there since more than 80 plus years of work and 80 plus of years of existence, he tried to figure out what is really making things work for them. So when he came up to this, he realized it is just not the numbers. It is much more deeper than the numbers. And that's where we come across this concept of good to great. So when I talk about good to great, I look at the concept of sustainable growth. You cannot have a growth factor which is one, and once you have hit the jackpot and that's it. You cannot have a business like that. You need to have a growth which is going to be for a longer time. And that will actually help us to go from good business to the great business category. And that's the reason we should look at the basics of sustainable growth. And that's where uh, the basics comes from importance of what exactly you mean by sustainable growth. So when we look at having sustainable growth per se, we just do not look at one single approach, and that is not only profit oriented, but it is also planet oriented. It is also uh, people oriented. And that's the holistic approach when we look at that. So when we look at sustainable growth, we look at P for profit, and that is the economic growth. That's what we look at as the base. We look at economic growth. We also look at social progress. See, if at all an organization is coming up in a particular area, obviously you have seen that the area gets developed. How many of you have seen that the land prices go skyrocketing as soon as an international airport is declared? Have you seen that kind of activity in your area as well? If you have seen such kind of activity where you feel that, okay, there is an international airport coming up, the entire land prices go up. There is a big university coming up, you can see the impact on the employability. You will see the social progress happening, the community progress happening along with the business itself. There are so many instances. Let's take an example of a very well known town called Detroit. How many of you have heard a town called Detroit from USA? How many of you have heard a town called Detroit from USA? If you have heard it, just give me a thumbs up. That will help me to understand that you are with me. How many of you have heard a town called Detroit? Detroit was a town where Henry Ford assembled his first car, right? And that entire town was dedicated completely to automobile industry. You will find so many big companies working from Detroit. The entire town was established, and that's where we look at social progress. It is just not your business, but also your community. And you cannot simply, shun your eyes towards the environmental aspect of your business because you might be doing fantastic in terms of balance sheets, you might be doing great for the community. But how long you can do great if you're not environmentally aligned? And that's where we look at environmental stewardship. And then only you're able to uh, actually start walking towards sustainable growth. And that's what we look at as sustainable growth. A simple example, which I would like to quote here, you cannot have a business which is not running with right ethics. And this ethics comes from the base understanding of your doing right. And this doing right comes from the way you're going to look at your value proposition itself, right? So it's all in all together how you're going to govern your business. And that's where G for governance stands for. So let's quickly look at what do you mean by ESG. So when I look at E, I look at environmental aspect. I look at ecologies, I look at the waste management, I look at carbon emissions, I look at energy efficiencies, how I'm going to use my resources. Trust me, there is nothing in the world which is infinite, right? So everything what we have today is with a finite number, and hence our resource utilization should take precedence over many, many things. Look at what is happening today, right? So E for environment is one of the biggest aspect of any company to look at. Then looks at social, S for social, where we look at employees, where we look at consumers, community interactions, how we look at diversity, labor practices, and community engagement. And last but not the least is how my policies are going to govern this, how ethical I am in the business, what kind of transparency I bring in to the business. With the kind of businesses sometimes go shady, what transparency I'm going to get in. And that's where E for environment stands for, right? So if you look at the kind of skills, what you really, really require today, when we look at E for environment or when we look at S for social, is the basic skill which you really need as a sustainability person is something which is more deeper, more understandable. You need to look at what data says, right? You should be able to say what data says. You should be able to harness that and what the data is going to tell you and how you are going to portray that. That we are going to come, we talk about it using a case study in a minute's time. So when I look at what kind of data which I will get, when I'm going to look at ESG as a monitoring tool, E for environment, I will look at my climate change strategy. I would like to measure my biodiversity index. I would also like to measure water efficiency, energy efficiency. Am I going to look at my carbon thing on a very realistic terms? And my understanding is yes. How I'm going to go for carbon neutrality? What kind of environmental management system do I have? All this comes under environmental. In social, I look at what kind of equal opportunities do I give? What kind of diversity and inclusion score do I have? What kind of uh, health and safety rights which I give? Am I responsible to my customer and a product? And last but not least is child labor. I don't know how many of you have heard. I'm going to quote a very, very soon an example which you all of you must have, heard about. How many of you have heard about Coke, a normal Coke? And how many of you have seen that now Coke has come up with a small warning that Coke is not good to be consumed by pregnant ladies? That warning was not there earlier. But today, Coke's bottle comes with a small warning that pregnant ladies should not consume Coke. Now, why I'm saying this, this is what is their social responsibility, right? I'll give you an example of a Coke bottle having a statutory warning. Can you give me such kind of two examples, at least one, where you find this warning to the customer as, as a social impact? Can you see any warning to the customer as a social impact? You can give me so many examples, but you can give me at least one or two examples where you have seen this statutory warning coming up. Yes, Shalini, thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to see a few more responses. I would like to see a few more. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Anyone else? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Clinton. Thank you, Clinton. Yes, thank you, Vincent. I think you are also going ahead with the same, or is there any query? If you have a query, please do ask it in the Q&A. We will be able to answer all your queries at the end of the session. Please feel free to ask questions, right? Please feel free to ask questions. So when I look at this, see, sometimes your movies, right? Your movies has got ratings. Like some of the movies are for kids, some of the movies are for anyone who can watch, like family movies, and some of the movies are for adult age group. Now, when I look at that, that is a typical kind of uh, a example where you look at social as an aspect, right? So that is one thing. As we go ahead, we also look at governance, which is very, very important aspect today because governance is something uh, which is really going to make difference. If you look at the way corporate structures are going ahead today, business ethics are actually making a big, deep impact on the way the companies are operated. The board independence, the kind of no bribery and less corruption method. What kind of stakeholder democracy do they have? What kind of transparency and ethics have they, have mentioned? So such examples actually help us to understand why governance is so much important, right? And those of you will remember Facebook has faced a very, very big court case or a legal case because of current USA President, Mr. Donald Trump. And this was because of governance issue. How many of you remember that? That they have provided information to certain uh, set of voters, and then it was a targeted effort for Mr. Donald Trump to win. And then Facebook faced a legal case saying that you are not being just. You must have seen such kind of so many cases across the globe where governance is actually making precedence over the balance sheet. And that's where G for governance is a very, very important aspect when you're looking at ESG as a whole. Uh, let's quickly move ahead and understand uh, about yes. So let me look at a few things as we go ahead and discuss about a case study. And even before case study, let's understand why we should go for ESG. And then we'll see why people are actually choosing this path. When, okay, I'll ask a question to all of you. If you have $100, somebody has gifted it to each one of you. Let's suppose you have got $100 and you would like to buy shares, and there's a specific narrative that you need to buy shares of an organization. Which company you would like to invest? Would you like to invest into a company which has already, lost its reputation? Would you like to invest in a company which is actually not making products good for Earth? Would you like to invest in a company? Ask yourself, would you like to invest in a company which is actually creating havoc because of its waste management practices? Would you like to invest in a company where you do not know what the owners are doing with that money? Where would you like to invest? And I would like to know the answers in the chat box. Where you would like to invest that $100? You are supposed to buy the shares of a company. You're supposed to invest in a company. Which company you would like to buy the shares? Are you just going to look at their balance sheet? Are you going to look at the overall aspect of the company? Are you going to look at how the company's trajectory is so long? What kind of legal issues they're actually facing? So, what exactly are you going to look at? I'm going to give you a minute. Please, please do respond where you would like to park that money. Where you would like to park that money. Friends, please, please respond. Seriously think if you have got $100, where you would like to park it. Where you would like to park it. Thank you for all those who are responding. Thank you so much. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your responses. So when we talk about why ESG, it is very, very important for all of us to invest in a company which is not going to be risky for all of us, right? That's the key thing what we look at. We don't want to invest in any risky businesses because when we look at risky, that means the it's not high income, high risk. It might be high risk, no income. So you would like to park your money in something which is definitely going to give you good returns. ESG helps you to put your risk management into better zone because you are able to envisage so many things quite early because you're following something which is more important just than your sales number and a revenue track. So what you're actually doing, you're trying to figure out where the risk is. And this risk management is really done in a better way using ESG matrices, and hence it becomes investment imperative. Now, if you ask me what kind of skill you require, you need to have an analytical bend of mind in order to look at the risk which are involved in ESG. As we go ahead in the course, I'll explain the other skills which are required as well. The second thing, people always love and respect when you're doing good to the earth, right? And that's where your reputation builds in. And that also helps you to bring in that resilience. Look at COVID-19, how organizations have actually spring up from where they were. That resilience is from their core strength, which is actually developed by their business ethics, business values. And that's nothing but the G of governance. If you're looking at this, obviously you're looking at how this sustainable will be. Is it a one-time spike in the price or you're looking for a steady upgrowth? And if you're looking for that, obviously people like to go for a sustainable growth. And that's where we look at organization as a whole walking towards ESG. So I hope, again, I appeal to everyone, please do write your questions as we speak. I will be more than happy to answer your questions at the end of this webinar. So now let's move ahead with something which is very, very important and very, very interesting as well. So before even I talk about what is the difference between framework and standards, let me tell you something. ESG is something which is complied, something which you keep on reporting on, and something which is very measurable. So it's more of a legal aspect. It's more of a compliance driven aspect in comparison with sustainability. So, sustainability is a bigger circle, and ESG is a subset of sustainability. So, somebody has asked a question in Q&A, what is the difference between ESG and sustainability? Yes, sustainability is bigger gamut. It is not just ESG, environment, social, global governance, but it is much more than that. So ESG and sustainability, if you look at this, ESG, if you are able to follow, you are actually going to walk the path of sustainability. So when we look at ESG reporting and why I'm looking at reporting, because something which I can measure, and if I'm not able to measure, how I'm going to improve. If I have to measure something, I should know how to measure and what to measure. So what happens is not every scale fits the bill, right? So what happens? You can actually pick and choose between either framework or standards. Now, what is the difference between framework and a standard? I don't know how many of you have heard a standard called ISO 9000, 14,000, or any for that matter. How many of you have heard that ISO as a name, at least? How many of you have heard name called ISO? Please do give me thumbs up or write in the chat box so that I'll understand you are aware of what I'm trying to tell you. How many of you have heard of this ISO standards? How many of you have heard of this? That can be many, that can be many, but yeah, I'm talking about this. Yeah, you must have heard 9,000, 14,000, so many, right? Now, what happens in standards? You cannot break the standards as per your own wish, right? And you cannot turn the standard the way you would like to. So you have to comply to the standard basics. You need to comply to what standards are designed for. There are very specific matrices which you need to adhere to, and you need to report to those matrices. So it's a very, very technical thing and very, very prescriptive requirements. What do you mean by prescriptive? It will tell you how to do it, it will tell you what to do it. So both things are exactly done, and you have to give that exact requirements to the standards. Where in case of frameworks, right, it is more of why you need to do that and what you're going to measure. See, the difference is how, why, and what. So it's like every business may not be able to follow the exact same standard. Instead, why not follow a framework first? Understand what is really important for you to report on, then look at the impacts of your business which you're making, and then look at how I'm going to be a better uh, sustainable organization. So I look at so many options of frameworks as well as standards, and then I go ahead and adapt to it. So there are reporting ways or reporting systems as of today, which are very much in the practice. There is something which we commonly use as GRI. GRI is nothing but Global Reporting Initiative, and this is the standard. So what you need to do, you need to log into the GRI portal, adapt to the system, and say what are the things which you can report, and you have to give disclaimers to things which you are not doing in your organization. And this is mostly widely used. It has got uh, very heavy usage even in terms of small and medium scale organizations. So many small scale organizations are able to use and report GRI because of the way the system has been made. It's a very modular system where it is divided into universal, sector specific, and topic specific standards. And then that's how we look at the second standard, which you all must have been very much aware of. If you're not, then let me just quickly tell you that is SASB, or it is also nowadays called as ISSB. So ISSB is basically the standards which all investors love. This is a standard which investors would like to uh, really understand more. And uh, then when we look at that, ISSB is a standard which investors look into before they invest. So today, ISSB is now turning into a bigger circuit called integrated reporting. So they have now adopted even TCFD. Now, that is TCFD is something which is task for carbon force development, and that's where TCFD, which we look at for carbon specific things or climate related things. So SASB is for finance and TCFD is for climate. Together, they make integrated reporting and saying, hey, this is a company you can invest. They are doing good in environment. They're doing good even in a financial aspect as well. And that's how the recommendations are actually made in integrated reporting structures. But what happens when your organization is operating from EU, European Union? And there are so many of your organizations in South Africa who are uh, also looking at the businesses in Africa. They also follow CSRD or ESR standards. So this is a standard again, or you can say a compliance more of. It is a mandatory reporting. So it's a very rigorous framework you need to follow. There are core standards for each of ESG, and you have to adhere to everything. Now there are methodologies by which we can report each of the aspects as we go ahead. We are going to talk about it in the course, actual course in detail. But let me give you what exactly CSRD and ESRS measures. So they have 12 core standards, and you have to comply for each of the standards, and you have to get your report done so that you can do business in EU. Otherwise, you cannot do business in EU. But the fantastic aspect, which is a very, very, you can say, a thread in all these beads, is your UN ESG. Your SDG reporting is well framed with each of the standards because all your standards or frameworks are borrowed from UN Sustainable Development Goals. So there are 17 goals for SASB, for GRI, and even for ESRS nowadays. You have to map all these 17 goals. So who is the mother of all these standards and framework? The unanimous answer is your UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that's how your measuring will shift. Those who are really more interested, you can go to USD, UN SDG site and you can actually see there is a measurement weight which they have given. It's a very detailed document which you can have a quick look and understand how does UN looks at sustainable development goal and what kind of measurements they actually propose. Fair enough. Now, we've talked about so many uh, systems, so many ways, standards, frameworks, and stuff like that. How I'm going to choose one? If I'm working in a particular organization and I would like my organization to walk the path of ESG, how I'm going to suggest? Well, first you need to know where you belong. Which kind of a geographical area does your organization is representing? Is it from EU? Is it from Africa? Is it from Asia Pacific? Where does exactly you are located? So if you're looking at EU, obviously you need to go for CSRD reporting. The second very important thing which you need to know for whom you're going to do this. Is it for board stakeholders? Is it for investors? For example, if you're going for investors, go for SASB and TCFD report. But if you're going for board, please go for GRI. If you need more wider enhancement of stakeholder inclusiveness, go for GRI. Which kind of industry you are looking at? because there are sector specific risks. What mining is facing, banking is not facing. What banking is facing, uh, maybe travel and tourism is not facing. What travel and tourism is facing is not faced by any of the construction workers. So obviously the risks are different. And hence, look at the kind of industry where you belong. There are sector specific standards available in GRI, which you may need to adhere that. And even in for that case, SAS. And most important, you don't have to stop at one report. Your organization can report on GRI, SAS, BNT, CFD at a time. There's no harm. The reason is very simple, more the better, because then you're more transparent, more measured, and then you know the kind of improvement areas where your organization needs to improve and move ahead. If I'm going to give you a minute, I know it's too much for the first day. So I'm going to give you a minute. Please ask questions in the Q&A session so that I'll be able to take it up at the end of the session. Yeah. Any questions? Any doubt? Can I move ahead? Any questions? Any doubts? Can I move ahead? Those who would like to add questions or doubts, please do let me know. Yeah. Now, let me quickly move to the next slide. And I hope all of you are aligned with me. I'm going to take you to something which is very, very troublesome for me. Being a woman, I always have a problem. And the common problem is I don't have anything to wear, despite I have wardrobe full with clothes. And I think all of you will agree to this, that all of us actually have so many clothes to wear. Sometimes we wonder, do we really need all these? This is a typical problem with all of us face, right? Up to 100 billions, can you believe 100 billion garments are made fresh every new year? And out of that, 92 million tons is the textile waste every year. As a globe, as humans, only humans wear clothes, fortunately. So as of today, 92 million tons of textile waste is produced. And out of that, 87% of that clothing goes into the landfill. You will be surprised to see how many of you have heard word called polyester. How many of you have heard word called polyester or polymer for that matter? How many of you have heard word called polyester or polymer for that matter? Yeah, you must have heard artificial fibers, right? They they make mixed garments, one cotton thread, another polymer thread, right? And all this is a complete polymer is actual plastic. So whatever new things which we are trying to wear is like what we call as dry fit. That's a new term, right? And it's smart fit, dry fit, athlete clothing. It's all plastic. Unfortunately, it doesn't, really change into a very biodegradable substance easily. So what happens as we go ahead, the textile production itself causes 42 million tons of plastic waste per year and contributes to about 9% of global waste, right? So every second of annual microplastic pollution, we are adding about 1% of clothes recycle. Now, just imagine how much pollution which we are actually causing because of just clothes. I'm taking one single example because that will help us. So, what has happened in earlier times, right? It was something which was not invented, and this is something called as fast fashion. About 2 decades ago, in 2000s, we never used to have so many clothes in the cupboard. so many clothes in in the wardrobe. We used to consume less. We used to recycle more and reuse more and more. There was I remember that our older generations and when we were kids, we never used to go for buying a new jacket every time, but we used to wear someone elder sibling or a cousin's jacket, and we never used to say, "Oh, I don't have new." Right? Because that's how our generations were trained. It's not only for me, but even for you. If you agree, please write agree in the chat box. How many of you have used your cousins or your elder sisters or your elder brothers jacket as a child? How many of you have used? How many of you have used that? And you never felt, oh, I'm using something which is, old one. We never used to complain those days because we were, okay, that's fine. He's a family or she's a family. I can always wear that. And the jacket is good. So what we have actually started doing this is keep on buying new stuff. We don't have clothes for generations now. We have clothes for a person, and when the person grows out of it, it becomes a part of the pile, which is on the second side, right? And today, what has happened is so much of textile waste which we have created, and it is actually dominating our economies. It's all synthetic fiber we are talking about. It's a very complex blend, which is very, very difficult for us to make it biodegradable. We are just adding, fuel to the fire by buying new clothes every time. And the key drivers are very simple. A is fast fashion. I don't know how many of you have heard of a brand called Zara. How many of you? I don't have anything against Zara. It's a fantastic brand, but I just would like to know how many of you know a brand called Zara. Now, Zara bought a concept of fast fashion. What is there in the store for Zara? Well, there is only there for a month max. Rather, 15 days is a time window, right? And then Zara changes the entire wardrobe. And they created FOMO, I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the fast fashion. People started buying more because of the fast fashion. Nothing against Zara. Zara did good. I'm going to talk about Zara sustainability plans as well in the course. But right now, I'm just telling you what fast fashion did to us. Now, there is one more thing. Earlier, people never used to get things which are made in India, made in Bangladesh, made in some another country. But now there is a global supply chain, right? And then you get sources from so many different ends, and then you are able to make cheap, sell high. And hence, that also added fuel to the fire. The worst part is you're able to create synthetic fibers and more materials, right? When I was young, there were hardly few types of material: polyester, maybe cotton, linen, jute, and denim. That's it. And if you ask me today, there is something called as rayon, which has come up, something as soft silk, and I don't know what else. So today we are actually creating too many complex materials, which are very, very difficult to get into biodegradable zone. And the worst is we don't have a system which is addressing to this huge problem. How many of you agree to all these key drivers? How many of you feel, yes, this is the real reason why we keep on buying stuff? Because it's very easily available, it is quite cheap, and I don't have to worry what happens to that next. There is no standardized system of recycling, right? And that's where I would like you to think of a company which is actually making a lot of difference. That company is called as Patagonia. And we have already talked about fast fashion, right? So I'm not going to ask you again, but most of the waste is coming from this textile. And Patagonia had an answer to this question. And this is an advertisement, okay, from Patagonia saying that don't buy this jacket. Can you believe a company which is actually producing jackets asking you to not to buy a jacket? Isn't it a very, very ironical advertisement saying that, uh, you know, this this kind of an attitude which says that though we are producing, please don't buy it. And the reason which was written very clearly, if you have one and if you need to mend one, please don't buy this jacket. Do you really need this jacket? And that's how they started this revolution about uh, consumer awareness, right? So I'm just quickly going to look at the model, business model, in a very, very nutshell, because today we don't have much time with each other. Would love to see you all very soon, but today we don't have much time. So let me quickly walk you through this. So by 1980s, it was a fast fashion business model, bring more, sell more. And that's how the entire sustainable chain was built up. But Patagonia is different company. The owner of this company is very, at heart, he was a climbing enthusiast. So he felt that I should be able to sell climbing pigeons and rugby t-shirts, which are reusable. So they looked at, instead of fast, they looked at slow fashion. So what happened? From slow fashion, they started looking at how I am going to make this thing reusable. So you can always take up casual, uh, wear and get it mend. So instead of fast fashion, they move towards selecting manufacturing partners. They shorten the cycles and they actually created a great sustainable sourcing way and a mending way through which they could actually not only sell their new products but mend their old products as well. And that's how they created flagship stores where you can take your old Patagonia jacket, get it mended. And if you like, you can buy one as well. And if you really need one, then buy one as well. So it was like items were not built to throw, they were built to last. And Patagonia actually advocated slow fashion rather than fast fashion. And that made a big, big difference. So what happens is they looked at outdoor apparel more and they were looking at activism and advocacy. And it's like, if you are wearing a uh, particular brand, it shows the kind of value you have. So it created a lifestyle brand with a lifetime warranty. So when you're wearing a Patagonia jacket, it's like you are caring for Mother Nature. So people started associating their value system with the organization's value system. And that actually helped them to increase their revenue cycle because of highly durable clothing in the field of fast fashion. They also look at the way they advertise and market. The catchy market lines which they have caused, they were simply superb. And not only that, it actually touched heart of many. People started thinking whether I really need to buy one. So that's where the thinking began, and people started associating with Patagonia. They also went for B Corp certification, and they started thinking that can I give away this Patagonia jacket to someone who would like to use it? And that's how the revenue doubled. And that's how things doubled. Today, as of today, I'm talking, as of today is 2025 detailed list which we have got. Patagonia has got highest recognition in field of sustainability leadership. You can see this is a blue line which has gone up. You can see IKEA, which is coming up next, followed by Unilever. So if you really look at the trend which is happening today, the trend is set by Patagonia, and year on year, it is going on a similar zone. So when I see this, I feel this is how the value is added to the business, right? I hope you have all liked the case study which I've just shared with all of you. I hope all of you have liked it. Can you name a company in your own region where you feel the company is sustainable or the company is actually doing great in field of ESG? If you can name a company which is actually doing great in field of ESG, I'll give you a minute. Please name a company in your own. Yes, they're very conscious. Yes, Anglo is very, very uh, conscious about ESG. Thank you. Thank you so much. I would love to know from your region which other organizations which you feel, anyone from Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, please let me know. This is a two-way street. I hear from you, you hear from me. It's both ways. So I would love to hear from you as well. I really request all of you to please add on. Okay. Till you guys add on, let me walk you through the kind of careers which you can do, you can pursue uh, in field of ESG. So the first one which I would like you to look at is sustainability manager or an officer. Now, what does this guy does? He actually aligns all the executable material with the sustainability philosophy, which is guided by the management. So management just thinks, right? Somebody has to do. Now, the doer part is with sustainability manager or sustainability officer. He has to actually sit across and see the kind of deliverables which he needs to devise for each of the aspects for ESG as well as what exactly the output, what management requires. The second, very, very important today is ESG analyst. Thanks to AI, thanks to data, which is available in ample formats because of so many sensors. ESG analyst actually analyzes all your ESG endeavors and helps you to track down not only risk, but also the improvements which you can enhance. So that is a part of ESG analyst. As of now, it is very much in demand because if you just put your CCTV as your sensor, how many of you accept that CCTV is a sensor? All of you accept CCTV is a sensor? Yeah. If CCTV is a sensor, just imagine the kind of data CCTV will be sending, and you need someone to analyze it, even for, as for social, because you will know if the child is entering into your entire uh, plant. You should be able to look at the inward and outward of the trucks getting offloaded in your premises. So many things which you can do even with a small CCTV kind of sensor. So much of data which is available, and you need to decode the data to find right answers. And that's what the job of ESG analyst. Next is governance and compliance specialist. Now, this is particularly for big organizations where they're operating in multiple nations. When you have your own governance, it should comply with all other law of land as well. So, governance and compliance specialist is really a job which wears most different hats as per the geographical aspects. Governance specialist especially devises, for example, cyber security for bank is quite different than the cyber security for agricultural export, right? So how you are going to devise your governance policies, how you are going to have your compliance policies as per the sector requirement is all done by governance, and compliance specialist. Then we look at sustainable finance professional. Sustainable finance professional is a person who actually think of finance for your organization, getting investments for your organization, as well as you also look at how you're going to finance the sustainability endeavors in your organization. For example, you would like to deploy battery operated vehicles, right, in your organization just to bring down your climate change. If that's the case, you should have someone as sustainable finance professional to see how you're going to generate that. What kind of finance do you require? From where you're going to get it, and what kind of impact it will generate. Next is ESG and ESG reporting and compliance specialist. Now, this is a job where it is very close to what I used to do earlier as a employee and later as a consultant. This is the job which I try to help people with. I actually feel that this is a job which will tell you the kind of reporting structures you may would like to use, the kind of matrices which are important for you to use, how you're going to measure it, at what time, what kind of uh, legalities which you need to look at. All this thing is covered in ESG reporting and compliance specialist. As of today, these jobs are so much in demand that if you just Google it, you will find so much of demand is there for ESG managers or ESG reporting managers and stuff like that. Then we have impact investment analyst. Now, for example, somebody, a great example is MacArthur Foundation has donated about a million to one of the initiatives, right? As a MacArthur Foundation, I would like to know what kind of an impact my $1 million have created, what kind of an impact I can see, I can feel, and I can actually measure. And that is what impact investment analysis does. It figures out what kind of impact each investment is going to make. Is it on social? Is it on environmental? For example, with this 1 lakh dollars, I have built about four different small and medium sized dams on a river. Now I can actually measure this impact on also on economy, also on social aspect, and also on governance aspect. So overall, what is the impact? Is it that 1 lakh? Is it going to change people's life forever? What kind of timeline that impact may have? All these things I have to do as investment analysis, impact investment analyst. CSR and strategist. I don't know how many of you agree with me, but CSR is something which creates a huge amount of goodwill, right? So when you look at CSR as a standard in operation, it is it is always an operation which is going to add a lot of goodwill. It doesn't really uh, go with the operation sides of your business, but it helps your business to bring a lot of goodwill from the external stakeholders. And hence, you need to be very, very strategic when you're placing your CSR activities, CSR endeavors in place. And that's the role of CSR and strategists belong to. And last but not least is CSR officer who actually creates creates the way by which I can go ahead and understand how I can be, how I can, deploy these CSR activities which are laid down by the organization. So these are some of the rules which are very much important today in area of ESG or sustainability. Uh, so what kind of a program do we offer? So this is a course which is for 16 weeks to be precise. We look at module one, that is ESG fundamentals and global and African context. Module two talks about more of environmental factors. How do we look at them? How do we uh, measure certain ways? And what are the factors I should look and measure? So that's where environmental and social responsibility comes in place. In governance and compliance, we also look at what kind of governance tool which we can look into, what kind of governance ways I can think of. So that's the module 4. I can look at the kind of compliances, the kind of risks which are there in governance. Module 5 is the strategy and business integration. As what we have been talking about, walking on the path of ESG is a business decision, it's strategic decision, and hence one should be very, very comfortable looking at how I'm going to integrate my ESG endeavors and the business together. So that's where we look at business development, business integrations, and strategy of ESG. Then we look at what are the best practices. One of the case studies what we've seen is the best practices in textile world. So what kind of best practices what we have, what kind of tools what we can get, and what kind of leadership thinking what we need to develop. And that's what Module 6 is all about. In modules, which are the capstone projects, there are two modules. We also offer you a capstone project, which is on voluntary base. We expect you to complete your capstone project at the earliest, and that helps a lot to understand uh, and how you're going to deploy it into your own organizations. So this is in a nutshell about the program. Uh, I hope there are no doubts as such in the program. If you have any, please put it into Q&A. And thank you so much. Let me just quickly look at the Q&A, things which I can answer in the conceptual clarity. Let me answer. So let me go back. Do you provide certificate? I think there are few things which will be answered by our sales colleagues. But rest, let me quickly address what is a link or a difference between sustainability. I find people bad. Surely there is a distinctive link. So I've already talked about it. Sustainability is bigger, ESG is a smaller subset of it. How does organization ensure fair labor practices and employee well-being? Well, there are so many matrices which one can use. Jacob, when we are looking at fair practices, again, you have to define what do you mean by fair. Something which is fair for you may not be fair for me, and hence I should define that in a very clear-cut manner. GRI defines that if you're going for GRI, you need to adhere to those. Employee well-being as well. What is well for employee? Each organization has its own definition. You need to define it and then you measure it. How does organization measure and track the impact of ESG initiatives to ensure they create both social value and business value because of uh, business and ESG integrations? It's a strategic move, and for that we use something called as materiality matrix, and that's how we try to integrate business as well as ESG values. And that's how they ensure that all the boxes are ticked. You are able to make profit, you are able to take care of people, you are able to take care of planet, and you are yet transparent and responsible. Well, whether I'm able to share the presentations through your email will be answered up by a sales colleague. Yes, you can go for this is for Jacob. You had applied statistics with computing. What additional trainings I can undergo to become ESG analyst? This is the basic course which you can think of. Apart from that, you need to harness skills on since you are anyway a statistics person, you can think of AI using statistical analysis. But to begin with, you can think of such course to understand the kind of data which is going to flow in and the perspective of the data. As what we know, statistics or any kind of data needs a story at the back. So, what is the kind of story you would like to paint will depend on your understanding. Okay, this duration of the course is 16 week and rest information can be taken care by our sales team, right? Our presentations are available on YouTube, so I think all of you can actually watch this presentation yet again whenever you have time. Apart from that, I think I'm done with all the questions. So those who are interested, please just type down your email in the chat box, as else team will reach out to you. Right? So thank you each one of you joining in this session. I enjoyed interacting with all of you. Thanks a lot, and I hope all of you have liked the session as well. Thank you so much. Um, can I take your leave? Can I take your leave, Vivek?